Tuesday, October 21, 1913.
Of that city, I could tell you much more than I have done. But I have other matters to deal with, and will, therefore, give you just one more item of our life there and then pass on to other things. We were lodging in a cottage within the palace grounds, where the children often came to see us, and my own little one among them. They seemed to be glad to come and see their little friend's mother, and her fellow visitors, and were never tired of hearing about the other places we had visited, and especially the children's homes and schools. They would weave garlands of flowers and bring them to us as gifts, with the hope at the back of their minds that we would in return join them in one of their games. This we often did, and you will easily imagine how I enjoyed those romps with these dear little children in that quiet and peaceful place. We were once playing with them, at a game they had invented among themselves, a kind of jolly hooper game such as you used to play, and we had won nearly all the others onto our side, when the few who were left facing us suddenly stopped in their song and stood still, looking beyond us. We all turned round, and there, standing in the entrance of a long avenue of trees at the edge of the glade, was no other than Kestrel. He stood there smiling at us, and, although his aspect was so kingly, yet there was so much gentleness and humility blended with his strength and wisdom, that he was very lovely to look upon, and to be near. He came slowly forward and the children ran to him, and he patted one and another on the head as he came. Then he spoke to us. "You see," he said, "I knew where I might find you, and so I needed no guide. And now I am obliged to cut your play short, my sister visitors, for there is a ceremony on hand at which you ought to be present. So you little ones must continue your games alone while these big children come with me." Then they ran to us and kissed us happily, and made us promise to come and continue our games, as soon as we were at liberty. So we followed the Prince Kestrel along the avenue of trees, which formed a leafy tunnel meeting overhead. We walked to the end and emerged into the open country, and here our guide paused and said, "Now I want you to look yonder and tell me what you see." We, one and all 5 of us, told him we saw a large undulating plain, with many buildings here and there, and, beyond, what appeared to be a long range of high mountains. "Nothing else?" he asked. We replied that we could see nothing else of importance, and he continued, "No, I suppose that is about the limit of your vision at present. But my sight, you see, is more developed than yours, and I can see beyond those mountains yonder. Now listen, and I will tell you what I see. Beyond that range I see other mountains higher still, and beyond them still more lofty peaks. On some of these are buildings, others are bare. I have been in that region also, and I know that among those mountains, which from this point are viewed foreshortened, are plains and tracts of country as wide as this of which this city is the chief. I am now looking at the shoulder of a mountain, not on the horizon, as I see it, but far beyond your own range of vision, and I see a large and glorious city, much more extensive and much richer and more magnificent than this. The principal gateway fronts in this direction, and before it is a large flat space. Through this gateway are emerging horses and chariots with drivers, and other horses with riders. They have now assembled and are about to start. Now their leader emerges from the crowd and comes to the front. He gives an order and the crowd of citizens raise their hands and wave a Godspeed to them. Now their prince moves forward to the edge of the cliff on which the city is erected. He leaves the edge and proceeds by aerial flight. His chariot leads the way and the others follow. "And they come," he added with a smile, "in this direction. Now we will go to another place, and you shall witness their arrival." None of us asked the reason of their visit. It was not that we were afraid to do so. I think we could have asked him anything. But we somehow felt that all that it was meet that we should know then, had been told us, and so we were content to wait. But he said, "You are curious to know the reason of their coming. That you will shortly be permitted to see." So we went with him to the wall of the city, and stood there looking over the plain towards the hills. We could see no more than we had said. "Tell me," he said, "which of you first sights them?" We looked long and eagerly, but could not see anything. At last I thought I saw a star begin to twinkle over the mountains far away in the depths of space. Just at that moment one of my companions exclaimed, "I think, my lord, that star was not there when first we came here." "Yes," he replied, "it was there, but not visible to you. So you are the first to see it. I did not like to say I had seen it also. I should have said that before. But he continued, I think there is someone else who sees that star. Is that not so? And he turned to me with a quiet smile. I am afraid I reddened and mumbled something awkwardly. Well, he said, watch it. You others will also be able to see it presently. At this moment it is several spheres away, and I did not expect any of you to be able to see quite into that region. Then, turning to us two, he bowed courteously, and said, Ladies, I congratulate you on your good progress. You are rapidly advancing towards a higher grade, and if you continue, your sphere of service will soon be enlarged, believe me. We were both made very happy by this speech. But now the star had considerably brightened, and even, as we looked, it seemed to enlarge and expand, and this continued a long space of time. Then I noticed that it was no longer a round disk, but was gradually assuming another shape, and, at last, I was able to see what the shape was. It was a harp of light, somewhat in the shape of a lyre, and seemed to be like a jewel set with many diamonds. But as it came nearer and nearer, we were able to see that it was made up of horses and chariots and men, and that, in that order, they were speeding through space towards us. Presently we heard shouts of welcome from the people on other parts of the city walls, and knew that they had sighted them also. Now you see the nature of their business in this city. Music, I suggested. Yes, he answered, it has to do with music. That is the main object of this visit, anyway. As they drew nearer, we saw that the company numbered some hundreds. It was a beautiful sight to see. There they came along the path of the heavens, horses and chariots of fire, you know the old familiar phrase, believe me, it is little understood, with riders of light radiating their glory far around them, as they sped along their heavenly way. Oh, these citizens of those higher realms are all too beautiful for us to describe to you. The lowest in rank of these was just about of Castral's degree. But his own glory was constrained and hidden, in order that he might be both prince of this city and also a citizen. Yet, as his companions and peers drew near, we noticed that he also began to change. His face and form glowed with an ever-increasing radiance until, at length, he shone as bright as the least bright of those who came along the sky. I could understand, when I thought of it afterwards, why it was necessary for him to condition himself to the lower sphere in which he served. For, as he stood before us now, even though he had not attained the full intensity of his native brightness, yet none of us dared approach him, but drew a little distance away, and left him to stand alone. We were not afraid, but unaccustomed, that is as well as I can put it. The members of the flashing jeweled harp, at last were speeding over our own country, and when they had come half the way between us and the first range of hills, they slowed down and gradually reformed. This time the band took the shape of a. We cannot find the word. Then sweeping down they landed on the space before the principal gate of the city. Castral had left us for some time now, and, as they landed, we saw him issue on foot from the city gate, attended by his principal men. He was robed in light, that is nearly all I could see. But the diadem he wore shone more brilliantly than I had ever seen it, and so did the girdle he wore. He approached the leader and knelt before him. This angel was much brighter even than Castral. He descended from his chariot and, hastening to our own prince, lifted him up and embraced him. The action was full of grace and also of love, and, for the few seconds they were together, there was complete silence on the walls. But when the embrace was done, and the words of blessing, in a language we do not understand, were spoken, Castral bowed his head before the other and then, standing up, looked to the city walls and raised his hand, and there was a burst of music and voices as the citizens broke into a glorious anthem. I have told you of the singing in another region. This was much more sublime, for this was a plain in advance of that. Then they too, followed by the other visitors, entered the city amidst the shouts of the populace, and the pealing of bells, and strains of instrumental music, and the singing of the thousands upon the walls. So they passed along the street to the palace, and, as he turned into the avenue which led off the main street, the angel prince, our visitor, halted, and, standing in his chariot, turned round, and, lifting his hand, blessed the people in their own tongue, and then went on down the avenue and was, with his glittering attendants, lost to view. Dear, I have tried my very best to give you even a faint description of that incident. I have failed miserably. It was much more glorious than I have been able to describe. I have spent my time also on the description of this arrival scene, because that I could understand better than the mission on which they had come. That is far too deep for me, and concerned the teachers of the city and the great men of that land. All I could get to know was that it was chiefly concerned with the studies of the most advanced in that colony, of the connection of music with the creative faculty. I cannot understand more than that. But perhaps others will be able to say more about it than I can. That word we could not give above was planet, the second formation. We mean not planet, but planetary systems. I do not know whether it was the solar system, of which the Earth is a unit, or some other system I rather think, but I do not know. That is all, dear, tonight. Are you waiting for our blessing? God bless you, dear lad. Lift up your eyes and keep your ideals bright, and believe that the most glorious of glories you can imagine are to the real and actual glories of this life of ours, just as candle light to that of a sun.